If it wasn't for Libya, Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, which dominates the Sahara from the Atlantic Ocean to the borders of Libya, would have spread eastbound to Egypt and possibly to Israel and the other countries. But Libya stood as a rock against the spread of Al-Qaeda. We abandoned our mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction program, famously in 2003. And we had very good economic relations with the states. Cultural relations were being established. And we believe that all of this sadly was lost because of the American involvement in the aggression against our nation. But the time is not too late. There's still opportunity. If facts, truths are presented to the American officials, maybe they will change their mind and see Libya for what it is. As for the rebels, yes, indeed, we have had many meetings. When I say many, I mean around 6 senior level meetings. They took place in capitals, different capitals of the world. One in Cairo, one in Rome, one in Paris, one in Oslo, and we met different officials from the Transitional Council of Benghazi. I actually did name these people to you before. I think I sent an email to some of you, whoever I have their email. Actually, I sent an email with the names and the timing and the capitals and everything, the Libyan side and the Transitional Council side. But what we discovered in these meetings, the conclusion that goes through all of these meetings, is that while we as a government come with a unified position, clear picture of what we want, and while we take the matter forward towards a solution for the crisis, the officials we meet from the council do not have a unified position, do not have a clear image of what they want, except of course for the famous Gaddafi has to leave, which is, I mean, childish cry that will lead them nowhere. It's not a political program to ask someone to leave. It's just a childish cry. And they do not consult with each other, and they don't have a political program that we can discuss. So this is the problem we face. Of course, the senior officials we met from Benghazi, they come from different political cultures. So some of them are secular, some are very religious, and some are opportunists from in between. You know, they ride whatever wave is going up. So they have different ideas and different concepts of how things should be, but vague. And we know that in between them, especially the secular part and the religious part is mainly Muslim Brotherhood, of course. You all know Muslim Brotherhood, with powerful connections to the Muslim Brotherhood worldwide. The secular and liberal ones have connections to Europe and the States, and this is a source of conflict between them. But if they unify their vision and if they come up with a political program for peace and democracy in Libya, then maybe we can discuss it with them. What we offer them is our position from the very beginning. We said to them, of course we said many things, but this is like the main thing. We said, you call for democracy in Libya, and you claim that you're doing all of this damage and terror and the foreigners' involvement in the country for democracy. We say to them, the African roadmap provides the best way forward for democracy. It says, one, a ceasefire, logical and moral enough. Secondly, humanitarian aid to everyone, so we make sure that all Libyans are well, they are fed and they have their water and their schooling and their salaries. Because of course, you can't have people free and voicing themselves freely if they are under attack by NATO or by the rebels. You can't have them voicing themselves if they are hungry or thirsty. So you have to do these two steps first. Before anything, stop all military operations, one. Second, make sure that everyone has their livelihood back. Good. This will take, of course, a few months. You have to observe the ceasefire and then make sure that life goes back. This will take a few months. Thirdly, we enter into a dialogue. And dialogue, it's inclusive dialogue, which means it's not just between what is called the Libyan government and the Transitional Council of Benghazi, because there are other Libyans who say that they are not under the government or the rebels. We have tribes, we have Libyan politicians, political figures, intellectuals. We have people who left the country because they did not want to be involved. Some of them actually at this moment have constructed some political bodies for dialogue and democracy in Libya. So we get every Libyan. So no one says, I've been excluded. Every Libyan to sit and talk. Now, when you have a national dialogue, it might take a week or a month or 2 months, but we have a time frame. Let's say 3 months of dialogue, which means around the clock talk until we reach an agreement on how to get into the 4th stage, which is the transitional period that will involve whatever form agreed upon in the national dialogue. So if we agree on a constitution, that is done. If we agree on Libya being a republic with elections, and then this should be done. If it's a monarchy, then this should be done. If it's a tribal, some sort of an inventive tribal society, whatever we agree upon it, then the implementation takes place in the 4th stage for elections and the constitutions and whatever we agree upon it. This is logical, it's safe, peaceful, and we agreed, we said from the very beginning, from NATO, before NATO started attacking us, we said this should be done in full transparency, under the full supervision of the African Union, the United Nations, and other international organizations. These organizations should be on the ground monitoring this transitional period. We said yes to that, we signed it. This is the African Union roadmap. Africa supported this map on the 2 levels. First, on the government level in the African Summit. So these are the African governments. And on the parliament level, the Pan-African Parliament also met and supported the roadmap. And lately we hear NATO and Russia, China, even France praising the African roadmap. The only ones who said no to the African roadmap, which is so detailed and so, so logical and so, are the rebels. They said no. And I have solved the puzzle for you before. I said to you why they said no. It's very simple. It's for the same reason NATO did not want to listen to the African roadmap, which was proposed 4 months ago now. It's because they know that in a peaceful, democratic Libya, Gaddafi stays as the figurehead of this country, the rebels have no future, and Libya is united. This is a disaster, and we understand that. We almost understand the actions of NATO. They are so terrified of democracy in Libya. They are so terrified. Otherwise, if they think democracy is anti-Gaddafi, why don't they embarrass us and say, yes, let's do it right now. It will save lives. It will save them money they are spending on rockets. It would lessen the opportunity of terrorism. And it will help the Libyan people move forward. But for 5 months almost now, they have been saying no, 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 no. They are terrified of peace and democracy in Libya. And I assure you, hopefully in the future, we'll meet again, and I will say the famous quote to you, I told you so. You will hear it from me, I promise you, I told you so. If we have democracy and peace in Libya, I assure you I assure you, Gaddafi was ever an honorable and dignified leader of this country. He is now even more honorable, and he is becoming a legend in the hearts of young Libyans. Young Libyans, talk to young Libyans in their early 20s and teenagers who did not witness the miracles performed by the Libyan revolution in 1969, when the 27-year-old Gaddafi, 27-year-old, kicked the American soldiers and French soldiers and British soldiers and Italian settlers. These are powerful countries. Less than 1 year of the revolution. Within 1 year, he freed, liberated Libya of all these forces of evil that were dominating Africa and the Arab world from Libya. People, young people, did not witness these miracles. They did not see what Gaddafi and the revolution did in education, in health, in transport, how Libya was transformed within a very short time from a very nomad nation, very poor, to a very rich, developed nation. And I've appealed to you before to go to the United Nations Human Development Index. And I said to you, just do this. Look for the indications for Libya in 1970. Then look for the indications for Libya in 75, then 80, 85. And you will not believe your eyes. And these are the United Nations indications. You will not believe, you will think that God came down and did everything for the Libyans. The revolution was unprecedented. And it's all, of course, because the oil was brought back to the Libyans, was taken back from the international companies and given back to the Libyans and spent on education, health, transport, housing, and so on, so on, so on. Now, young Libyans are reliving the revolution. It's their chance. It's like Gaddafi was chosen twice to be the hero and the legend of this country. In 1969, when he was 27, and in 2011, when he is 70. I think it's his luck. I envy him. This is my initial response. I don't think we have any journalists with us in custody. But if we do, I will check. I will double check for you. As we have done before, every single journalist we captured, we, of course, kept for a short time to check their identity, make sure they are journalists, check the circumstances in which they entered the country. You have to remember, we are the sovereign government and sovereign state in Libya. We believe that, and we practice our sovereignty as mandated to us by international law. And after we keep them, usually for 3 days, 4 days, very few were kept for longer because of different reasons, but usually it's 3 days, 4 days, a week, and then they are released. So if we have them, we will make sure that we check their identity, make sure that they are indeed journalists, and then I believe they will be released as soon as possible. But I will check for you. Could you please leave me his name?
Is it possible maybe they don't?
Do you have his would you be able to find any photo of him on the internet?
I couldn't find yet.
Yeah, that would help. If you could do that.
Do you have an email address? Or?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I have my work one.
Or generally
It's yeah. Some of you, I left it by the reception for days and days, but maybe before you came, I will repost it. I would not call it negotiation. He said, because it doesn't work, they are not equal parties. You are talking about the Libyan nation and armed gangs. Nations do not negotiate with armed gangs. We are seeing this as an internal matter. These are people, Libyans, who have gone astray. And he has urged the Libyan nation to talk sense into them. He says, talk with them, have a dialogue, see what they want, tell them that you oppose them, and disarm them,